Welcome everyone. I'm Mark Reese, the Director of Marketing with Getac USA, and today we're going to take a deep dive into public safety technology and the future of law enforcement. Joining me today are Brian Robbins from GovDirect and Brett Blake from Rugged.One. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to have you both here, and we really want to have just a conversation about how rugged technology is changing the way law enforcement operates. So let's start with this. With the growing complexity and unpredictability of modern law enforcement, how do you both see rugged technology such as body-worn cameras, in-car video, rugged laptops and tablets, enhancing operational efficiencies with the officers in the field and public safety departments, particularly in high-pressure situations where crime is evolving?
Well, I mean, Mark, I see that, in law enforcement, they're relying on this technology to be there as their voice as well. So they need that camera to come on and record and be reliable. And so from a video perspective, body-worn cameras, automatically activating when they hit their blue lights, or if they draw their weapon from the holster, that it automatically cuts on and records, and they've got like a pre-record of the video. So it goes back and gets 30 seconds of video from that event so that they capture those events and they don't have to think about it. These things are happening for them automatically in those high pressure situations. And then the technology just needs to work for them. They don't need to be working against that technology and having where the technology records that event, but then there's less work for them to do on the back end. And from an operational standpoint, being able to see where your cameras are live in the field, having that situational awareness from an in-car video standpoint, being able to see where the officer is outside the vehicle, live or on a recording, as well as from the perspective of the officer, just makes things so much more efficient by deploying that technology.
Yeah, I think going further into that, having that technology working for them when they don't even think that it is working for them at that point. A lot of times they think of it just being in front of their rugged laptop, inputting information, when the instance of AI and that sort of thing can really help start utilizing Bluetooth technologies to get information back to those rugged laptops and tablets, that sort of thing. And it's collecting that data without them actually having to input anything. It's going to make their time more efficient, as we said, and it's going to make them be able to concentrate on what's going on in front of them so that they're able to just pool most of their resources to the task at hand, and that's keeping the community safe, that sort of thing.
And just to kind of go off what you said, I mean, a lot of the technologies of being able to scan a driver's license. They don't have to sit there and enter all that information into their MDT. They can just scan that with a barcode scanner. That goes into their system, helps them generate their report by reviewing body-worn video. So they can play back their body-worn video in the car, type up their reports, and you can even auto dictate reports now using the MDT. So no longer are they having to sit there and type out an entire report at an awkward angle.
Right.
They can sit there and kind of record it and have audio dictation software dictate their report, and then they can add in portions from the video. They can go back, it's a high pressured situation. There may be something that they missed, and by being able to do all that in the field on their mobile computer and with their body-worn technology and their in-car camera technology, they're going to be able to gather all this information and make a better, more comprehensive report. And then all that information is going to be used in the future. So for operational planning. So I mean, those are things that we see the technology being used for today.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because one of the things I think that often gets overlooked is the connectivity between video and compute and the officer. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of connectivity. And when an officer is in a high pressure situation, he's got a million things going on in his mind. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the role that technology plays making those connections to make sure that the officer can focus on his job.
Yep. And you were kind of talking about it earlier, Brian, but just think how impactful it can be where you're getting a suspect's driver's license and saying it in there, or things are going on in a traffic stop that, as you said, you've got a million things going on in your head. And once that is completed, AI that Getac affords them the capabilities of having, it auto dictates and it auto populates something within your report where that officer can then go back and be like, yep, that's what happened, maybe add some color to what was going on, or take certain things and add a little bit more of a description. But that's going to completely change the game for them, where they're not having to spend as much time reporting if half of it's getting done before they're even back to the car, because it's just infinitely doing data collection back and forth in real time.
Right. And I think as the technology is working for them, and it's helping them. They may be driving down the road, and their in-car camera has the technology of being able to scan license plates, and they've got a hot list of stolen vehicles, and so it gives them that hit and alert right there in the vehicle on their MDT, letting them know, hey, that vehicle's stolen. It can enter that license plate into their system and run it live, so that not only does the officer in the car know it, but the device in the car, the MDT, is going to send an alert back to their dispatch center, letting them know that they just got a hit on a stolen vehicle and that they're going to try to pursue that vehicle and pull them over safely. Then that allows other units in the area to be seen, also with the MDT connecting back to their dispatch software, and be able to coordinate the resources to be able to respond to being able to apprehend someone, where it's going to keep the safety of the public in mind, and they don't have a high-speed police chase at that point, right? And they'll be able to pull that car over and be able to do it without engaging their blue lights or manually entering this information in today, right? Having to enter in the information into a system or call it into dispatch. Those are things that, are going to allow these officers to work more efficiently, and it's going to help them be safer in the community.
It's all about saving time. Really, at the end of the day, the less I have to type, right, the more I can speak, or the more that the camera or the whatever picks things up, I think is going to make these departments much more operationally efficient. Speaking of, as you both have worked with numerous departments across the country, there's got to be some common themes that all police departments face. You go in to meet with a prospective client. What are some of the themes that you see that are constant throughout all departments in terms of challenges that they have?
I think the biggest challenge still today is, the budget. When you're talking about video, the biggest component or the biggest cost with body-worn and in-car video is how long do they hold that video? They've got to develop a policy, or they've got policies already written for them by their state, and they've got to maintain that video for long periods of time. And so storage costs, and that is a huge part of that budget, and it's typically ongoing cost with most of this video being stored in the cloud today, and being able to give our agencies the flexibility of choosing, do you want an on-prem system where you manage the storage in the system, or do you want to put it in the cloud? We give them the flexibility of being able to choose what's going to be more efficient for that agency, and then they want the technology to work a certain way. They want it to meet their policy guidelines versus having to rewrite their policy based upon what the technology can do. And so giving agencies the flexibility of being able to have the technology work the way that their policy is wrote, because every agency across the U.S. is different when it comes to how they want this technology to work. And I think that's the biggest challenge. You go from one agency and they want it to work this way because they're a sheriff's office, or you go over to a city police department and they want it to work a little bit different way, and they have a different policy there. And so it's just being able to come in and give that consultative approach to help them see that we can make the technology work the way that they want, and improve efficiencies and operational capability versus what they have today. So we definitely want them to see that we can make an improvement with that technology.
Yeah, I think there's two words you said there, Brian, that you hear almost all the time. The first one is budget. I think everybody has budget constraints. I think everybody is trying to stretch their dollar even further. But another word you said was flexibility. And I think that's where Getac can really come into play. The fully customizable solutions, where are we just trying to solve the problem that is not going well today for you, or are we trying to get your blueprint ready for 3-5 years down the road for where we're trying to go, what the capabilities are, and what you'd like to do in the future? To your point, I think law enforcement A, 10 miles down the road is different than law enforcement B, this side of the road, so everybody wants something a little different. But being able to have that consultative conversation about what they want to do and get things how they want them running now and into the future can really be impactful and go a long ways for them. So.
The agencies want this technology to always work for them too, because I mean they're out there working 24/7, and they want that technology to be reliable. So whether they're going to have to go in and save someone in the water, and that camera comes out of the water soaking wet, you don't think that it's going to still be working, but that technology is rugged. It's reliable for them. It's always working, whether it's their computer, their body camera. We've had numerous cases where police cruisers have been in vehicle accidents that's not their fault. They get hit, and now we've got video evidence of it not being their fault. And so when we can help the officers show that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, it keeps them from having to take time off and be able to still be able to do their job, and it resolves issues much faster than it has ever in the past.
Yeah, and I think to your point, they want something that's going to work when they need it to work, right? There's a lot of tough conditions out there. So, just speaking from our southern region, maybe the Carolinas, even Florida, those cruisers can be sitting idle for a long periods of time with heat in excess of 100 degrees, right? We've all been outside playing and left our phone on the table, and then you get back to it and it's like, it needs to cool down for 5 minutes, where law enforcement just can't have that happen. And the rugged technology that Getac offers is something that will be as reliable as they can get in those kind of tough conditions that they need it to be, productive for them.
That actually raises a great point. If we look at the current situation in the United States right now with the most recent hurricane, right? So it's not always about being prepared for a criminal element, but a natural disaster. And how do these departments now operate and make sure that they're operating and make sure that their devices aren't failing, like in the Carolinas now?
Yeah, I mean, that technology is crucial right now. Being able to get it out there, deploy it, use it in the field, and be able to coordinate their resources in these extreme environments. They need that technology to work for them.
With the implementation of AI and what Getac can do with some of their embedded chips, that's some of the things, again, with limited resources, where you're needing to stretch that dollar further. You want your law enforcement on the streets helping the community stay safe. They can use AI for kind of predictive drone placement places where they know that maybe certain areas or certain times of day are going to be an issue. And when law enforcement is already trying to play catch up, sometimes maybe we can get ahead of some things where we can be more proactive instead of reactive. And that's all going to help the situations to maybe diffuse some of the crime out there and make it so that they're not needing as many law enforcement officers in certain areas. They can kind of spread them out a little more and not just all have them all concentrated in a singular area.
I think AI is a nice segue into what I want to talk about next, and that's advanced technologies in policing. And sometimes when we're talking about a deployment, there's stuff that prevents departments from deploying. I review a lot of the customers that we have after they come in, and three basic things that I find are budgetary, logistical, or cultural that kind of hinder widespread adoption of AI. Because it's so new, because a lot of people don't really know about it. They think they know about it, or they have an idea of what this AI is. But let's talk about the adoption from let's talk about budgetary first, then we'll go into logistical, maybe cultural. But let's talk about budgetary when it comes to this advanced, quote unquote, advanced technology like AI and body-worn cameras.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks new technology, and they also think higher cost, and they try to associate a lot of that with where are they going to come up with the budget for this? And a lot of agencies don't take the time to necessarily always look at the grants and the funding sources. And we've had agencies that we've worked with. We point them in the right direction, get them set up with a particular grant for their state, or it's a federal grant, or it's a matching grant, so they can get half the funds matched with a grant. And sometimes budgetary comes into consideration with the culture of the community. Sometimes the community wants their agencies to have body cameras, and so in some places we've seen that businesses will match the other 50% of the grant grant in order to get new technology deployed to their agencies. And so we've seen businesses donate money to agencies to help facilitate, programs and things like that. We've also seen local representatives come in and see that this is a need and get some kind of funding set aside for them to get this new technology in their districts. And so, budgetary is always something that is always a hot topic every year. How they're going to fund this project, and that allows us to move on to the next phase of the project or potential project, is once we know we've got some kind of secure funding for that project. And so it's always a challenge, no matter the agency that you're in, whether you're a small agency to a large agency. You've got to help them figure out, what's going to be the best option for them, and to be able to move forward.
Situations where you come in and you can get more body-worn cameras for the same price you were doing previously, or conversely, you can just have the same budget and we can get you the same amount but a higher quality product to get there. And I think a lot of times people just think that it's a daunting task, something they don't want to think about, and that's where Getac, GovDirect, Rugged.One can come into play to kind of help facilitate rollouts, trials that we'll talk about, that sort of thing, on just how it would work, and take out some of those steps for them to kind of just make them more comfortable with the situation.
And Brett, the other thing that a lot of our agencies don't always consider is return on investment. You're going to spend this amount of money, but your return on investment for that product or that solution is end up going to cost you less in the long run. We try to get agencies to look at the 3 to 5 year picture for this technology because it's something that's going to be there. It's going to be reliable, and then they also don't look at the service and support that comes with that too. So, having Getac be able to support both the computer and the video and the software, it gives them a complete service and support picture as well. So when you look at the overall investment and what you're putting into that solution, it's going to be a huge return for them in the long run if that's the way that they look at it.
I think the multiple funding sources and the being more creative with funding, I think that when police departments are very engaged in their community and in the community, and the people feel safe, the community is willing to kind of step up and kind of, like, into your point, front half of the bill, or provide money, knowing that they're in a safe environment, a safe community.
And I think from a community standpoint, a lot of these agencies are going into their community and getting feedback on how they want the policy wrote for their particular community. I know several agencies that went out and talked to different community organizations and developed their policy of how they were going to use the body-worn cameras in their community on their officers, and got that community feedback so that the community didn't feel like it was going to be this huge cultural change as far as impacting them, that they were comfortable with the new technology as well as the police officers. And I think that makes a big difference when we go into an agency and we ask, well, what's your policy and who has given you feedback on this policy? And we definitely see a lot of these agencies engaging their community, doing community policing, and being able to get that feedback. And I think that makes the deployment of this new technology and the concerns around maybe AI and privacy and things like that, it eases the mind of both sides and allows the technology to be deployed a whole lot easier into the community.
It's interesting when you look at, people are very concerned about their privacy when it comes to body-worn cameras, but they walk around with a cell phone, right? Where
and they're recording everything.
And they're recording. You're being recorded on everything.
Right.
The other thing I find interesting about body-worn cameras is I'm starting to see them pop up more. I saw a security guard in a store. I was in a drugstore, forget where I was, but I just stopped, and he was on duty there, but he had a body-worn camera. So it's not just for the police anymore. More and more people, as these become acclimated, are starting to see these, utilities, auto mechanics. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for different organizations, different departments to kind of start utilizing body-worn camera technology. Let's talk about when you go into, and I really want to hear from the video and the compute side on this, when you go in and you're implementing a new technology, but they're keeping some of their old technology, right? And we're talking about maybe cybersecurity risk. Cybersecurity crime is huge now. You're talking about cybersecurity threats, dealing with outdated technology, new technology communicating with old technology. How do you kind of work around that?
Sometimes we can buy back their technology, and it is something kind of, I think, unique that we do, is we try to find a way to give them some kind of credit if we can find a way to take back some of the old technology. We also look at leasing or, as a service program. How about, those types of situations where now they're not looking at this big capital expense, but now they're looking at an operational expense that they can spread out over 4 or 5 years, depending on how quickly they want to refresh their technology and what their budgets are looking like. We have, some agencies that want to refresh every 3 years so that they are ahead of a lot of these cybersecurity threats, that they're getting the latest technology. They're taking advantage of those efficiencies of upgrading that technology more often. And so when it comes to budgeting, we want to make sure that we have all these different options available to get some of that outdated technology out of there, because you want to move to the latest Windows, not only for that, but they've got requirements from CJIS, right? And that's Criminal Justice Information System, or data that is got criminal information in it. And they've got guidelines and security guidelines that they have to meet for those old devices, whether it's an in-car camera, body camera evidence that's being captured, or it's information that they're putting on their MDT. They've got to have those devices secure with the software that's on there. So a lot of that is dependent on that, meeting that policy. They could get cut off from having access to that criminal justice information, or it could be hacked, right? There's all new ways of technology being hacked, all the way down to the firmware level these days. And a lot of these agencies are not seeing these threats or these attacks yet, but if they keep their outdated technology in the field, they're more acceptable to being hacked by these new methods.
Let's talk just briefly about the third-party partners out there that we now have to connect with too. These other third-party systems. There's multiple systems out there. How easy is Getac to integrate with these systems?
So I think Getac's one of the most flexible manufacturers out there that is looking at the latest trends in technology and saying, hey, let's go and partner with this company to integrate, right? So they're reaching out to the different CAD vendors and ALPR vendors and things like that have been specialized in these industries, and they're used with our customers today, and that our customers are looking at, and making sure that the software that Getac is building for digital evidence management and body-worn in-car video, that they're able to integrate with those other solutions, so that our customers are able to easily deploy a Getac solution, as well as if they're trying to migrate from an older solution, right, outdated technology, to what Getac has to offer. Being able to migrate that data over and not have multiple systems to manage definitely makes it an easy choice when they move over to Getac. It definitely relieves a lot of that pressure of having to maintain old and outdated systems as well.
Yeah, and I think being with Getac, they're first to market on a lot of their things that they do. So they're not someone that's just going to be like, oh yeah, we have that as well. They're really trying to push the technology, move things forward, make things more efficient in the field for law enforcement. And going back to the third-party people we have to work with, a lot of times, if you get too outdated of equipment, they're going, oh, we're not putting that on our systems, we're not putting that on our cloud, that sort of thing. Again, it can go back to the trade outs, the leasing options, that sort of thing, to help you get kind of back up to where we need to be now and then look for the future.
So what innovative ways do you both believe law enforcement should prioritize on how to stay ahead of this increasingly sophisticated type of criminal? Like, AI is a nice buzzword. It's a great technology. But let's talk about, well, let's slow down a little bit. Let's, what do you think we should prioritize from the compute side and the body-worn camera side?
Yeah, I just think from the compute side, the AI embedded chip that Getac offers is a great thing. And to your point, I can just say that buzzword and they're like, oh yeah, I have an AI embedded chip in this, and what does that really mean? Well, one of the cool things that they have came out with is the predictive drone deployment. So essentially that AI is just taking all that information all the time from your traffic stops, from anything that's going on, and it's continuously running reports, doing analysis on that data. Whereas before, you were having to have somebody comb through that, oh, yep, these are peak hours over here, and this is a peak area over there. And someone was having to analyze that data, hopefully, frequently, once a week or once a month or whatever it is, but someone was physically having to do that. Now with the AI, they're going to continuously be doing that, and they're going to try to help the police departments become proactive rather than reactive in terms of responding to events. And in some cases, maybe you'll already have a police presence somewhere because AI has told you there's usually problems in this area at this time, and it can stop the crime from happening altogether.
To enhance on that from the video side, the in-car camera is scanning license plates in real time and using the AI to analyze those plates, and once they get to a certain efficiency and read that plate against a hot list, maybe it's a stolen vehicle, maybe it's a missing person, maybe it's an Amber Alert or Silver Alert. Those are all things that will then alert the officer on their MDT and let them know, hey, this is something that I need to act upon. Versus if they're just driving down the road, they're not necessarily looking for that. They're trying to do their job and focus on what they're doing. But this now allows them to just have AI kind of working for them in the background. Being able to have that data in real time and have it analyzed in real time without someone sitting behind a computer, having to monitor that for them. So it's going to allow them to work more efficiently and also safely.
Let's talk about data security on the compute side and on the video side.
I guess from a video perspective, a lot of these devices are going to have AI integrated, so it's going to be able to enhance their security methods. So not only is AI doing all the analytics and looking at the data, but it's also looking to protect the data. So having encrypted, hard drives and encrypted data on these devices, protecting that, making sure that it's meeting and exceeding their current CJIS cybersecurity policy, and then getting that data securely into a cloud environment where not only do we have it secure there and it meets all those requirements, but also having it backed up and there in case of any kind of disaster. They don't have to worry about losing data or having it being encrypted and hacked and ransomware and all that kind of stuff. And so, there's a lot of security measures put in place with the technology from a video perspective, because we need this data to hold up in court, right? This is evidentiary.
Right.
So, they're relying on this evidence to potentially be presented in a court case potentially, and that's what you want to make sure that they understand that you're meeting and exceeding a lot of those security and cybersecurity requirements.
Yeah, and going along with the compute side, they have the AI embedded chip that, to your point, it needs to hold up in court. So when they're doing those things such as, getting information back from the officer without them even being there via Bluetooth, it's writing that report for the officer. It needs to be robust enough where it's able to take care of some of those things, as well as that AI chip having those cybersecurity risks taken care of for them. So again, being on the forefront of technology with Getac, it's just going to make it so it's that much more cleaner, safer for all these companies, for IT related.
What AI technologies are you most excited to share or talk about with departments in terms of enhancing crime prevention or reducing response times, boosting investigative abilities? What do you like to talk about with the departments, and what do they want to hear about?
Well, I think a lot of our agencies are wanting the technology to help them be more efficient in solving crimes. So a lot of that's being done with license plate recognition. So being able to find those stolen vehicles or find those, the missing person, whether it's an Amber Alert and they've got a partial tag, and being able to put that into a system, put that out to all your patrol cars, and now every car is scanning license plates as they're driving around, and being able to find that particular vehicle very quickly and efficiently without the officers having to necessarily always pay attention to every single vehicle going by. Facial recognition is another big hot topic. Being able to take like all these faces and say, okay, well, here's the person that we got a picture of at the gas station who just robbed this place. Now we've got it. Now we can run it through, all our body camera video or our, surveillance videos that we have throughout the city, and being able to try to locate that person quickly. I mean, that was something that was big in the Boston Marathon bombing. They were taking that data to try to analyze, and you think of how long ago that was,
right,
and where we've come with camera technology today. We've got 4K, 8K camera technology, and that's why with like the in-car video, and the body worn, we're going to 4K to be able to get the detail that we need out of the faces for facial recognition. So if we arrest this certain person over here, or they're a suspect in one crime, and they come up in another crime somewhere else, a month or two later, now AI is going to be able to go through and analyze all that data and be able to help them, show that, well, hey, this person's been involved in multiple crimes or suspects in multiple crimes. It gives them the ability to say, hey, this could be somebody that could potentially do something down in the future. And so it's going to not only help them solve crimes that they're doing today, but also do predictive analytics and deployment for their resources.
Yeah, I think the predictive analytics and drone surveillance is just huge. They don't have to wait for someone to call them somewhere. Hey, something's going on over on this side of town. We need to send more, whether it's law enforcement officers, drones there to make sure everything's okay. Another thing I think of is with it just capturing real-time data, how impactful it is, you get a license from somebody and it's a person of interest or something like that, and while it's sending it back, you don't have to get all the way back to your cruiser to get that information. It's relaying that real time to people to let you know, and to keep you safe and just be more efficient with what you're doing. So I think AI is going to play a big role in changing just how quickly we can get a lot of things done.
Yeah, I think it's going to allow that, agencies to be able to operate efficiently. They're going to be able to do more with less resources, that they're already constrained with today, and allow them to have, real-time predictability and be able to see what's going on live. So say you've got a camera system recording on a traffic stop, and now that traffic stop's turned into a police chase. Now they're going to be able to activate multiple cameras that are responding to the scene, be able to live stream and see where they're going, predict where that vehicle may go, and be able to put resources ahead of that without trying to sit there and do everything manually. They're going to have a lot of this done for them.
In terms of efficiency, this technology does bring a whole new world of policing to public safety.
Well, and that's like kind of what Brian was talking about with the license plate detection or anything like that. The police officer has their eyes on the road, or they may be doing something else, tending to some other situation, and all of a sudden there's an AI alert for a car that drove by or a person of interest. I think that is so huge to help stop crime. How many times is a car driven by while they were doing something else, right? And they just didn't see it, weren't able to catch it because they were focused on something else. This is going to be able to just get more resources going towards the ultimate goal, and to stop that crime. So.
Well, and we see AI changing technology in-car camera technology, and being able to alert the officer if someone's approaching them from behind. So, if we've got a camera facing out the rear of the cruiser, it's going to let them know if someone's approaching their vehicle. And, we've had a lot of those safety instances where, there's only a few officers working like a night shift, and being able to detect if there's someone approaching them, and it alerts the officer in the car, and a lot of that's AI driven. So these are technologies that we see helping improve the safety of the officers as well.
Let's talk a little bit about predictive. I think we mentioned predictive policing, and I think that always conjures up visions of Minority Report or Skynet, Big Brother. Yeah. And with AI advancing at such a rapid pace, how close do we think we are to that quote unquote Minority Report like future, where all of a sudden police departments are starting to predict that you're going to commit a crime,
Right.
Because we believe you're going to commit a crime because the data says you're going to commit a crime, and prevent that before it happens. Do you think we're moving that way, or do you think that's just still in the movies?
I mean, I think a lot of the data today is already showing some of that information. You know, they're seeing the same people committing the same crimes over and over, right? And they're ending back up in the detention facilities, and there's not a lot doing to address that. But it also is going to allow them to be able to look at the history. But it's also, maybe there's certain things that don't get put into a report that people don't look at. Like, maybe there was 2 people involved in the incident, but only one person got charged. The other person was a suspect. So that's where still the human element would come in, right? They're going to look at that and look at the data and be able to determine those kind of things. But I don't think we're going to get to Minority Report or have all the AI take over the world with the robots and the drones and things like that. But I still think there's always a human element involved with AI, and people kind of forget that, when it comes to this AI technology. We're so used to having everything on our phone and our devices these days that we just think, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have all this at our hand and our grasp, and
now we got by,
right? Yeah,
okay, everything was fine.
Right. I think even my teacher told me, like, you need to use a calculator to solve this math problem, because it's not like you're going to walk around with a calculator in your pocket every day. Well, now we walk around technically with a calculator in our pocket every single day, and a phone, camera, and we can search it. It's like we rely on our technology to help us do what we need to do, but it's also, what information do we enter into these systems for it to be able to output what we need? And I think with AI, it's just going to be able to predict what's going to potentially happen in the future. And it's just more of getting law enforcement in the right places to be able to, help respond to things that they may not have thought about.
You said something, the human element.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people, they start using this AI technology and they forget that that's just a starting block, right? That you still need that human element to put context, to interpret. AI can do a lot of things, but it can't reason.
Well, and you talk about predicting crimes, right? And the human element with it. Our ultimate goal with AI would probably be to prevent crimes, which would still need the human element, right? Maybe predicting where a crime might happen creates a bigger police presence, and now that human interaction there makes it so that crime doesn't even happen, which takes a lot of things into consideration and analyzes that data, and it makes it so that we're preventing a lot of things rather than just predicting them happening, which can go a long ways to kind of helping communities become safer and resources get stretch a lot further. So,
and a lot of these the public doesn't necessarily see all the focus groups and all the community groups and all the feedback that is being given to law enforcement and the technology companies that are developing the AI. There's a lot of focus groups out there that are focusing on, the legal aspects, the privacy aspects, and things like that. We've seen where, the adoption of, like ALPR technology, license plate reading technology, that, scanning that data and retaining that data and being able to use it for things other than solving crimes, like where was my husband on such and such day, right? So we get a lot of those concerns of how is the data being used and what is the AI using that data for. People are concerned about their privacy, but they're also concerned about their safety and the public and accountability. And the good thing about the technology and the way it's being developed, it allows that human element still to be there, but it also helps rule out human error in a lot of places too.
Yeah, I think it'll give you all the information you could want, right? Probably more than you want, but the human element will allow you to kind of decipher what it is you need and where it could be best used. So,
as Getac starts coming out with more and more technology, improved technology, utilizing the AI capabilities, how do you think it's going to improve 3 main aspects of policing, from facial recognition, we mentioned license plate recognition, and body-worn camera analysis?
I think AI is going to make things more efficient, and it's also going to allow them to look through the data faster. So if you've got picture of a suspect from a camera, it's going to be able to go through and look for that face across all the body camera video, all the in-car video, surveillance videos, and be able to help you put together where was this person at each different stage of the crime. You've got all these different data points, and in the past it would just take someone manually sitting there watching every single video, dictating all the audio, and today all that can be powered by AI, where it can auto dictate all the video, look for certain keywords, look for faces, look for the license plate, and it analyzes not just the body worn video, but it can analyze all the data that's there, and be able to put together a complete picture of a crime or an event.
How important is redaction?
Well, I mean, a lot of agencies, it depends on state by state. Some states have body camera laws where if you're not in the video, they can't release that video to you. And some states, it's all public information, and can be released. So redacting certain portions of a video is not always there for purposes that people would think that they're trying to hide something. Redacting is there to protect the privacy of individual citizens too. They may need to blur someone out, or they need to bleep something out, but redaction allows them, and auto redaction helps a lot. A lot of agencies that don't use the auto redaction feature of blurring out all the faces, right, that don't have consent to be released, it's that person's privacy, or it may be a minor. A minor might be involved, and a lot of state laws prevent them from being released to the public when a minor's involved. So having something that can go through and pick all the different faces from a video, auto blur them, and they're not sitting there having to do it frame by frame in a video editing process. I mean, you're talking about, these are evidence techs, or they're people who are not specialized in the video world. They're trying to do something that can be very time consuming, and this reduces that time, gets the video released so the public can see what happened.
Yeah, and I think just with AI, talking about this, the human element and the time involved with it, AI can comb through all this stuff for you. You think about where we were a while ago, where it was just the law enforcement out there, and it was their word against everyone else's. Well, then body cameras came out, right? And now we're using body cameras in court sometimes. And then once AI comes around, okay, the police officer said this is what happened. The body camera shows this is what happened, and AI dictated it this way to this what happened. So now what are we talking about? Well, what are we trying to get out of in this situation? So I think with AI being able to comb through multiple different reports, multiple different situations, sometimes in different cities and even states, you can start to kind of help your reports, help your fact finding, and help just kind of de-escalate things quicker and make it so that your resources aren't being spread as thin. So,
given the way our three companies work together, what do you see, or what have you seen that you think will have the greatest impact on police technology?
From technology standpoint, we go in and consult with these agencies. We're engaged with these agencies together. We're learning about what kind of problems they have today and what kind of problems need to be solved in order for them to do their job. And so a lot of the technology that's being still developed for the future is based upon things that the agencies are seeing today. And a lot of this is being kind of predicted with AI, what kind of problems they're facing, and being able to solve that, not just with hardware capabilities, but with software and connectivity, and with being able to have that data real time and live. Today you can go to your smartphone, hold down a button, and ask it to do something for you, right? And it's going to bring you directions to a place. And a lot of this is what law enforcement's going to be looking for, is technology that's going to help them, one, do their job more efficiently, solve crimes quicker and faster, and then also help prevent stuff in the future. So can they deploy resources here or there to be able to prevent crimes from happening? What can we do to be more collaborative with our agencies? And this is an ongoing process. So A lot of companies will come in and they leave, they deploy a solution, but we believe in coming back in and checking in with the customers every so often with Getac and sitting down with the customer and saying, hey, now that you've had this technology for 3-6 months, tell us what are the things that we can do to help improve or make this technology work better for you. And so it's not just the initial conversation, but how can we keep improving this technology, and with the different iterations of body-worn cameras that have been released, new versions of in-car, AI-backed technology with software, it's constantly moving these agencies forward and staying up to date with the latest technology.
So yeah, I think going on what you were saying, Brian, the Getac's fully customizable solutions, especially with their laptops and compute side, we can really go in and be consultative and be a partnership with some of those law enforcement agencies to find out what problems they're having right now. If it's something where budget constraints are a problem, we can just solve those right now problems. And if it's something where they're like, no, we want to make sure we're ready for the future and we want to talk about AI and do that thing, we can make sure they have a blueprint for the future. Essentially what we want to have eventually to start happening is the AI starts helping them where their officers are not having to do as much on the back end, not in the field, not helping the community. We want AI to be able to do as much of that for them as possible, which is, I think, where we're going.
One of the things that I like about Getac is we really listen to our customers.
Yeah.
And then we create solutions that help fix the challenges that they're facing. When you're out talking to different departments, you have to start noticing themes, right? Like, although each department is different, they all have pretty much the same problems. What are some of the things that you both see on the compute and video side that all departments struggle with, and that solutions that Getac can help with?
I think, by us working with agencies and listening to some of the solutions that we have today and working with those agencies to deploy the technology efficiently and effectively kind of eases their mind, getting test units out there, doing a trial. I think we learn a lot from trialing equipment, whether it's on the compute side or on the video side. It allows us to ease the transition as well for those agencies for new technology, and it also helps us learn how they're using it. And then we also have the ability to show them, well, hey, did you know that the technology can do this? And so a lot of what we do is when we go back in with that consultative approach is we're like, well, did you know you could do this? Or maybe we have an investigations division that doesn't know that the body camera video and audio allows them to transcribe the audio for them, and being able to have that dictated into text so that then they can search the text for keywords and that they may need to solve a crime. A lot of this is just going to be working for them, and that's how we look to successfully integrate, is by listening to those customers, not just with what they want to do today, but what they want to do in the future.
Yeah, and I think that consultative talk that we've had about doing that with law enforcement agencies is great, but that trial that you speak of is just so impactful because we could see exactly how they're doing things. And to your point, sometimes you might be like, hey, how are you doing this now? Well, we input it manually. Oh, there's actually a technology out there for you that will automatically send that to your computer, that'll automatically send that to the cloud. And you just kind of see the light bulb go off for them sometimes, like, you mean I wouldn't have to spend 5 minutes doing that? It would just automatically do it. Just solving problems that they don't even know are problems can go a really, really long way because they've just been using what they've been using. They don't know what they don't know sometimes. So having that consultative conversation really can go a long ways for them.
And integrating systems, maybe they're putting something into their report. Well, that report needs to associate back to a body-worn video, and having that case file number associate with all the video involved with that report, and maybe it's across multiple officers. Now they can go into the system and search for all the digital evidence under a case number, and they never entered in a case number for all that video. All that video gets all the same retention policy. It puts it into a nice case file for them. And in a lot of agencies, you may be working with one side of the agency, and then you start talking to the criminal investigations division, and they didn't know that you could put all the pictures and videos and all the other data into the same system. They're using a different system, right? And so when you start talking to different departments within an agency, then you start finding even more efficiencies and capabilities that they can do with one system that they're already paying for. Now they can move everything into one single system, and it allows them to do more analytics and do their jobs more efficiently across multiple department or divisions of a department. And then I think the next step in this is other agencies working together. Sheriff's offices and cities, within a county, all coming together and doing a collaborative effort of being able to get all that data in one place to be able to solve crimes, not just within a city, county, but also regional efforts. That's the next kind of big push within, I think, law enforcement, is being able to share data among other agencies. A lot of this data goes back to the criminal justice information system, but doesn't get shared among agencies.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it goes back to, we're just trying to get as much out of the resources they currently have that they're already paying for as we can. And imagine if we can just get that rugged computer or the body cameras to start doing more of the things that manpower was doing currently, and getting them back in the field and back in their community more. If our AI embedded chips can start dictating things for them where they just have to approve it. If it can start sending data automatically instead of them having to manually do it, just imagine how powerful that is if your computers that you already paid for, that you've already spent money on, are doing it, some of the work that you were requesting your officers to do. That can really help ease a lot of the tension out there and let them focus on the things they need to.
And the other thing is that we see, AI being able to go and analyze all this data and look for stuff that is flagged. Maybe, one of the videos caught, an object in the background that they didn't see the first time that they walked through a house. Maybe it's a detective walking through the house to do an interview with a body-worn camera, and it picked up on something on a table, or picked up on their body language and things like that.
Told you there'd be something new about AI that would come out that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that I think AI can do to improve things and point things out to the human element. Say, hey, AI's analyzing this video and saying, hey, I noticed this object in this video. This needs to be looked at by a human element to determine if this is something that's useful. And those are things that as humans we don't always pick up on, because we're focused on what's being going on in that interview. But there was something that was happening in the background that based upon the analytics of the system, picked up on.
What's one piece of advice that each of you would give a prospective, a new client, to think about before they deploy? We talked about a lot. We talked about AI, we talked about rugged computing, we talked about how it's going to affect the community and budgetary. But what's one thing that you would say before you start digging into all that, before you start going down the rabbit hole, start with this? Brett?
I think speaking with them and trying to figure out what their real problems are right now that they're trying to solve, that they're really struggling with, is so huge, because these can be a pretty big undertaking when you're doing installations. Overwhelming, right? They start thinking of it in its totality rather than understanding that there's people here that they can lean on to help with. It's not Getac's first rodeo in as far as installing stuff. It's certainly not Rugged.One or GovDirect's. So if they can just break it up into what's important, what is it that we need to just get taken care of right now, what problems are we really trying to solve, and then we can move forward from there. We can really tailor these things to what they need now and what's coming down the line for them. And I think if they start looking at it that way rather than just this massive overhaul, it'll really kind of calm the waters and make things a little bit more feasible for them. So.
Yeah, I think they need to look at their objectives of what they want to accomplish, right? It's just, if you look at it even from like a military standpoint, what is the mission? What is their goal to solve here with this technology? And they've got to look at the overall objective and make sure that when they're looking at the technology that they're deploying, that they've got a direction that they want to go as an agency, and that takes everything into effect that we've talked about. The policy, the culture, the logistics, the operational, and how it's going to benefit them and the community as a whole. And so that's kind of got to be the goal in mind, and stay focused on that goal, but also don't get locked in and focused in on one solution, right?
Flexible.
Because a lot of times we see them focusing in on whoever they've seen the marketed the most in the industry, and maybe the agency next door has used this solution for a while. Sometimes that's good, but I always tell them you need to evaluate and look at the technology, because there are up and coming technology solutions, and you need to kind of consider them all for what they're worth today, but also what are they doing in the future, and how are they going to take care of us as an agency from a service and support. So I try to get them to look at the whole picture and not just narrow in on one thing. And sometimes we see that when we get into the nitty-gritty of some of the solutions, they get focused in on one aspect of it, but they don't look at the broad picture. So when they're looking at their goal, their mission, make sure that they're looking at the broad picture too. They're looking at the broad spectrum of products and solutions, and look at everything from an overall standpoint, right? Consider each category to be weighted the same.
I also think that it's important to have all key stakeholders at that initial meeting, from an officer to the IT, to the command center, to the chief. Everybody has to have a say, because everybody has different needs.
Right.
Even procurement, right?
Yes.
He doesn't want to spend money,
right,
but IT wants his data secure.
Right.
And the police officers just want to make sure that it works in the field so they're not stranded, and the chief wants to make sure everybody's safe. And being able to address each of those key aspects, and then having a holistic conversation about a total solution.
And I would add to that, I would just say also the public, and maybe the district attorney or the prosecutor, getting everybody's involvement that would be involved in the solution, and even your dispatch center, and because all the ones that are going to be using this technology, somebody from investigations, right? So having multiple people or stakeholders, I think, is also very key in how you choose a technology solution as well.
Well, and I think it can help bring certain things to light that they didn't even know were issues, right? So when the law enforcement officer that's at the ground level talks to, the procurement person or whomever it is, and we say, hey, we're going to have this technology that's available for you, sometimes they don't even know that law enforcement's having to do something, manually, or having to do, or how much time that's taking out of their day, right? And it's one of those things where you can just start opening people's eyes pretty quick, and all of a sudden the value add starts to increase once you get them in front of there and talking to everybody, just instead of via email, right? I'm going to forward this to so-and-so. Let's just get on a call. Let's talk about what the problems are and what we can help with, and move forward from there.
Because even companies are siloed, right? No matter how big or small, you're siloed. Now, I had no clue. I had no clue.
Right. I had no idea that was going on.
Really?
For sure.
Man, maybe we should fix that.
For sure.
Gentlemen, this has been a great conversation. You've given people a lot to think about, and I think that the more people delve in, I think they're going to find a lot of value in this video. So, Brian Robbins from GovDirect, Brett Blake from Rugged.One, thank you so much for being here again. I'm Mark Reese from Getac. Thank you for joining us today, and if you'd like to learn more about any of our solutions for public sector, visit getac.com. Talk to you again soon.